So I don't know if I'm on. I don't know what's up. This is like my first time really streaming, so not my first video ever, but been meaning to set up a stream and talk about all this new stuff and old stuff and just general talk on gaming as um, you know, I'm a fellow gamer and I have my opinions. I've recently got into PC gaming. Let me shut off this. As you see, I'm watching, like I usually do, watching stream YouTube. Anyway, so I have recently gotten into PC gaming, and it's kind of like one of those taboo things. I always didn't want to go to the dark side, and but as kind of I got the PS5, I got the Xbox Series X, and I don't know. I just kind of wanted to try something new, and I've always heard really good things like, you know, you should screw the consoles and go to PC gaming, and it's so much better, and you know, the price point consoles definitely, you know, much kinder on the wallet. So I've always gone for consoles, and I've always been pleased with it. And and now that I've built a couple PCs now, and I'll get into that here in a little bit. But you know, the past month and a half, I started building, and I made probably every mistake in picking the right stuff and not getting, I don't know, like for instance, getting like I got a RX 6600 XT, and that was by accident. They sent me an XT version when I ordered the RX 6600 non XT off Amazon from a seller, used like new condition. I bought the Power Color Hellhound 6600 is what I paid for, and I got it for a good deal because it was right when the GPUs started dropping again. Now I could probably get the card for another $50 less, but not a whole lot less. So anyway, I didn't pay a whole lot, but I paid for, at the time, the price of what the 6600 was going for. And when I got the package in, I was kind of already regretting it because it took about like 3 or 4 days for it to arrive, and in that 3 or 4 days, I've been doing more research and realizing it's not really gonna hit the 1440p mark, especially the non-XT version. But you know, the reviews I had seen were saying, you know, like the XT version would do some good 1440p gaming. I have a 1440p monitor and 144 hertz Acer Nitro over here that I had got, and so I kind of wanted to play at 1440p, as you know, kind of like a lot of us. I want to maximize what I have, and the 6600 wasn't going to cut it, and so I was kind of already regretting it. Then it came in the mail, and I opened the package, and I was like, that says XT on the end of that. And I went back into Amazon to make sure, like, that I didn't, you know, pay for an XT, and you know, thought I, you know, whatever. But no, I paid for the regular old RX 6600, and they sent me the XT. And the packaging looks identical, you know. They have the Power Color Hellhound 6600, RX 6600, and they have the Power Color Hellhound, it's a mouthful, RX 6600 XT. Look identical. They look identical. The boxes look identical. The card looks identical. You know, the only thing that's different is the letters X and T at the end of it, which are, you know, as most of y'all know, that's a major difference. So I was really stoked. And anyway, so the mistakes I made were not researching. I didn't know anything about PCI Gen 3 versus 4. It's my first PC, mind you. This is my first PC that I was building, and I learned all this on the way. It played great. I had bought the first motherboard I got was a B450, but when I got it in, I couldn't use it because I had bought the Ryzen 5 3600, and the B450 that I had got it wasn't ready for. You had to like do a flash on it, but in order to do a flash on this particular motherboard, you had to have the older generation chip. You couldn't do like an external flash on it. So boom, I bought it because it was cheap, right? Well, it ended up costing me money. I couldn't even use it. It was either buy another motherboard or buy a chip just so I could upgrade it. Well, buying another motherboard was cheaper. So I bought the exact same thing, except a version 2, non-Wi-Fi, B450. Forget exactly which one that was. I'm looking at it now. Gigabyte B450 DS3H version 2, which was Ryzen 5 ready, whatever. So anyway, it worked. But this was before I knew anything about PCI Gen anything. So that board is Gen 3. Well, the RX 6600 XT and all its gloriousness is a PCI Gen 4 ready card. I had put the computer all together and it was playing great, and then in my opinion, again, this is my first PC, so I'm comparing it to years, decades of console playing, and I've just not used to having frames a second be, until PS5 and Xbox Series X, I had not been used to anything like 120 frames a second, and there's still very few games really that I have on those consoles that do run it, until recently, like Halo, just back in May, they upgraded that to 120 frames. Anyway, so I'm not gonna get into that, but anyway, so I was thinking everything was great. I thought, man, I bought the whole build at that point, and I think I was like at $650. Graphics card. I went and bought like a case. I bought the NZXT case. I found that on Facebook Marketplace. I got that for $30. I got a Corsair, a nice, 550. God, I can't think very well right now. 550 watt power supply, which is plenty for the AMD, the Ryzen 3600, and the RX 6600 XT. Ran 3600 megahertz of RAM and M.2 storage. The XPG Gamix, which is a real fast one. It's actually the same storage, same brand, same exact card that I have in my PS5. So that that runs up to 7,400 megabytes a second, if your system can do it, which obviously I'm not hitting those kind of speeds. But anyway, so I was playing, and then I'm doing more research, and of course I'm trying to look for more ways to maximize my FPS, and that's when I started going down the PCI Gen rabbit hole, and realizing that pretty much everything I had bought is PCI Gen 4 ready, but my motherboard was PCI Gen 3. And also the RX 6600 XT only runs on 8 lanes of the 16 PCI Gen PCI lanes. It's only using 8. So if you have a PCI Gen 3 board, it's running only half the lanes at like half of the speed as well. So really, you're kind of like getting like quarter of the performance. I think that's how it like kind of added up. Anyway, or so I'm thinking. Mathematically, I'm thinking. So I'm like, damn it. and mind you, at this point it had been playing great. Everything was great. It played great. I just wanted to see how far I could push it because, you know, I have that problem. And so buy another board number 3, B550 RS Pro P, which is the one that I have in my PC now. And to my disappointment, now everything's Gen 4, correct? You know, now everything's, you know, meant for each other, and everything should flow great. My my M.2 is now PCI Gen 4, which it you know, that's what the XPG S70 blade is. And so it's running at like, I think it was like 5,600 megabytes a second, or maybe, no, I think it's actually a little over $6,000. That's right. I have to redo it. I think it's a little over $6,000 though, and that's fast. I saw that, but you don't really notice the difference. You know, like the load times were already super fast, even with the PCI Gen 3 board, and it running at like 3,000. You know, it is such a little difference because it was already performing so well, and the only thing I could see different is, as far as graphics, is when I was doing benchmarks, and we're talking about like minuscule, you know. So if just throwing numbers out there, these aren't accurate numbers, but just say I did a benchmark on Tomb Raider, whatever the fuck it's called. I can't think. Rise of the Tomb Raider, maybe, whatever the hell it was. It's the newest Tomb Raider that they have. Anyway, say I'm running a benchmark on that, and with the PCI Gen 3 board is getting 92 frames a second. With the PCI Gen 4, it might be running at 96 frames a second. And when you're talking about like that little amount, and with it already running good and smooth, like you couldn't tell by the naked eye. We're talking about like less than, you know, usually less than 5 frames a second at the most is what I was losing between Gen 3 and Gen 4, even with it running off of 8 lanes, and technically should be twice as fast, I guess, at that, for the fact that they're so fast, and we're talking about milliseconds of difference, that you really can't tell, you know. It's nothing like whenever you go from 30 to 60 frames a second, or when you go from 60 to 120. I think, from what I can tell, at least for my eyes, everybody's eyes can be a little different, you know, but I found that like around 90 frames a second and above, for the most part, it looks the same to me. It really does. So if a game's running 90 frames a second or more, it's great. It's buttery smooth to me. Like, it looks great. I could play another game at 144 frames a second, and if you took away the counter in the top, that up, you know, the little counter, I wouldn't even know. But if you gave me a game that was 75 frames a second and 90, I could tell. And I will say that now that I'm PC gaming, it kind of fucked my whole console game up. I'm kind of mad at that, because here I thought for years, this is before I really paid attention too much to frame count, but I always thought, like, even the PlayStation 4, I thought that was awesome. I thought it was running great, and little did I know, I had the standard PS4, I didn't have the Pro, that thing was only maxing out at 30 frames a second. And I would have never known had I not gotten the PC and gotten into this shit, or the PS5. The PS5, you know, pretty much everything that I play runs at least at 60 frames a second. And so now now that I'm playing PC, it's really hard for me to play the PlayStation 5 playing 60 frames a second. I almost, as a matter of fact, it's like it can actually make me nauseous now. And it didn't used to. It's weird. And I can see the difference. Like, it's definitely, it feels like you can see the shutters. You can see especially when you move your character side to side in first person shooters or any game, when you just go side to side to side to side, and you just see, like, the choppiness. And I'd never seen that before. Not until the past month and a half. So it kind of messed me all up with that. I will say though that now, as long as if they have 120 frames per second upgrade, that it looks just as good as PC to me. So that's cool. And anyway, I know a lot of this is probably obvious to a lot of you guys who've been around this game for a while, but these are just my new findings, and it's all new to me. So I'm loving it. I really wish, I'm 37 years old, I really wish I would have gotten a PC gaming way back in the day, and I wouldn't have been making all these errors, because I don't have a lot of money, so all these errors cost me more. I could have built everything I have now for like half the price, because I bought everything twice. And then as of recently, because I wanted to run 1440 buttery smooth, the RX 6600 XT does not run 1440p buttery smooth in all games, unless you sacrifice quality settings a little bit. So I wanted something that was gonna run this 1440p monitor at high frame rates with high quality picture, and consistently, and like any title I want to play. I don't want to, if I want to play Shadow of the Tomb, whatever the hell it's called. If I want to play something that's really in depth graphically, I want to be able to play it at a high frame rate and not have to worry about tinkering too much with settings all the time. I would like to be able to push ultra or even just high, very high setting, and play it and look great. So I found with the 6600 XT, you really had to tinker around a lot. If you wanted high frame rates and anything above 1080, you're not going to get it. High frame rate with the highest quality settings, you just won't. Unless it's something real basic, like Minecraft or something. But anyway, it got to me, and I had run out of stuff to do, so I got the money up, aka got more in debt, really, is what that means, and got the RX 6750 XT, and boy, I will tell you what, I got that card for $579. I bought a brand new Power Color, not Hellhound, Power Color Red Devil. It's right down here. I don't know if you can see it, but it's down there. Anyway, $579 last week, brand spanking new, off Amazon. And I will say, like, it, in some benchmarks, it's not quite double the performance, but it's damn near close to double when it comes to 1440p. I can pretty much play everything on the 6750 XT in high settings at 1440p the same way as I could play everything in 1080p on the RX 6600 XT. So the 6600 XT is still a great card, and it's still, now I think you can even get one of those for less than $300, especially if you go on eBay and shit. So if you're really on a budget, it's still a great card, and yeah, you can still play. some games at 1440p. Actually, all of them really. You're just gonna have to adjust your settings, and it's still a really great card. And if you just want to play smooth and you don't care about 1080p, you could play all those games at high settings at 1080p. But if you want to play 1440 or even dip into some 4K, again with some settings being tweaked, you can play some 4K. Even some games pretty decent at 4K. The 6750 XT's the your meal ticket right there. That is a great card. I consider it still budget, and if you have a little bit of patience, you could probably snag one used for like $479. And if you're talking like $100 difference, if you're paying $100 more from the 6600 XT versus the 67, even $150 more, it's totally worth it. Just if you're kind of at that edge of like, do I get the 6600 XT right now? If you can just like wait a couple weeks, or just wait a little bit and save up an extra $100 or $150, you will thank yourself heavily. I feel like the 6750 is going to keep me going good into the next year or two. Give me some time to pay off my debts, and also keep me happy with the graphics with my 1440p monitor. I don't plan on getting a 4K monitor. I don't even really plan on playing it on my 4K TV. So, I'm pretty happy with that card. I think it's going to do very well for the next couple of years. So, if $150 is what's breaking you, I'd highly recommend just hold off for a bit. Save up that extra money and get the 6750 XT. It's an amazing card. I love it. I didn't know it was going to be that much more powerful, and it came with 3 fans. I will say that both these cards can run hot. The 6750 runs a lot cooler. It's got 3 fans. It's got a bigger heat sink. Like, it's thicker, and it runs consistently cool at high settings, whereas the 6600 at high settings, if you consistently were pushing it to 100 on to 99% GPU utilization, you're looking at I don't know. I was getting anywhere between 95 and 100 on the GPU hotspot. Now, it's safe zones up to 110, and they say that that's safe up to 110 for the actual GPU temp, not just the hotspot. But I didn't like seeing that number. Anything getting close to 100, I don't care if it's just a hotspot. That still means that there's a part of your card, there's a part of your die that is close to 100 degrees, and all that means to me is degradation and instability. So, I was dialing down my settings with the 6600 XT just to maintain lower temperatures as well. So I was kind of taking a hit just because I didn't want to mess the card up. Kind of OCD. So, with that being said, the extra money, totally worth it. You're going to get a more graphically reliable card. It's going to be able to consistently run games very smooth, even very demanding games, and you're gonna have decent temps the whole time. Like now, with the same setup, all I did was switch out the cards. My 6750 XT, the hot spot hovers around 80 to 85. It won't go over that, you know. It won't. I think I saw it hit 87, but it was bouncing between 87 and 85, and that was like during a very, 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 you know, just a very graphically demanding game. It was pushing. It was pushing the card heavy and hard and consistently, you know. And but for the most part, every time I look up there, if I'm doing like Guardians of the Galaxy at very high settings, at 1440p with ray tracing on, I'm getting like 85 to 90 frames a second with ray tracing on. Cards maxed out, but it's running consistently at 75 degrees at the hot spot and like 62 degrees at the die. So I'm pretty happy with that. Anyway, I've been talking a lot longer. I do feel like gaming now. I know I don't have any visual things to show you right this second, but this is kind of a test dummy streaming thing. I just want to see if I'm getting a video on there. I'm trying to set up my channel, and I'm going to start, you know, doing the real deal, and I'll show benchmarks and whatnot. If y'all have any suggestions or what you'd like to see, I know watching a guy just talk about his shit is probably not very entertaining. So I did want to just this is a test video, and also at the same time, if you are watching it and you are kind of thinking between the 6600 XT or something else, that's my opinion on that. So yeah, and I'm not like paid by anybody, obviously, so everything I say is my good honest opinion, and nothing more, nothing less. So if you are watching this, thank you for stopping by, and please try to watch something else in the future. If you happen to see me again, it will be better. I will have screenshots, benchmarks, stuff like that, but this is a test video. Anyway, hope you all are having a great day. Keep on gaming. Have fun.